Hello everyone, I'm Gemma Beall. Welcome to Beyond Second Cognition. This afternoon we had a great conversation with crew out there that I would like to share some parts of today. In this chat, the premise we were talking about was cognition, and if there is a difference in cognition while in form and while not in form. There were some things that came out through this conversation that weaves together some of the other information we've shared in other videos about things that crew has shared with us. I will have some of this in additional tiles in the videos, so this is not just an audio presentation. Now, for all of you new subscribers that may not have seen some of our older videos, I do have communication abilities to talk to other crew that are not here on Earth. I do not channel any entity. They talk to me like I'm talking to you. They also do not just give us information. They only give us answers to the questions we ask, but sometimes they ask us questions for us to find the answers within. As one of them has said to us in the past, do you learn more from asking questions or do you learn more from answering them? I will say I learn far more from answering the questions. The crew we spoke with today is one that at one point in time was an Earth human, which is why I feel he has chosen to work with us because, like us, he has direct experience of being an Earth human to have some correlation with us to help us remember. For the sake of sharing this, I will refer to our crew as RJ. Our PSOYCA crew friend Kat asked RJ if he had any negative carryovers from being an Earth human when his form died. He replied, "Of course." Then Kat asked, "What kind of carryovers did your PSOYCA experience?" RJ replied, "All the programming that uploaded to my consciousness from the form." From this response, Kat asked, "Did the programming impact your PSOYCA's cognitive abilities?" This is one reason that we love questions by others, because we all think in different ways, and the questions I ask within and outside to others are not necessarily the questions that are going to be raised in someone else's mind, and vice versa. By sharing what questions we have with others, it gives everyone the opportunity to ask a larger array of questions of themselves. From this last question, RJ asked, "What do you define as cognitive abilities?" From this point on, I'm not going to narrate the chat, I will just share the pertinent parts. Kat, the ability to grow and expand your awareness and perceptions. RJ, are you comparing consciousness based on form function? Kat, I think so, yes, or if form functions translate or uploads to non-material consciousness upon the death of the form. Then I asked, I'm going to ask a question, or I stated, I'm going to ask a question. Cognition is how we learn, so RJ, does learning occur the same through consciousness as it does through the form? RJ replied, no. Then I asked, or I stated, this is what Akapoopel that raised the question and answer. He wants me to share this before he elaborates. We come in as PSOYCA with knowledge and knowings, but our forms have to catch up to utilize this information because the form's inability to function to allow us to tap into it. So cognition, as we understand it, is a form function. It can be hindered by the form as much as enhanced by consciousness through the form, but the form in and of itself, because of roadblocks, can hinder consciousness. Consciousness, on the other hand, does not have the limits on cognition that the form has. Here, I want to make the note that at this point in the chat, as we understand it, is very important to this information, and I want to remind everyone that cognition, by definition, means the mental action or process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through thought, experience, and the senses. RJ then asked, look at your lives and your states of cognitive growth from the beginning. What was the source of cognitive learning, and what was the basis of what was learned cognitively? The others in chat responded to the questions as they understood it. Then I responded, he said from the beginning, you are all referring to the beginning of your PSOYCA path. He's not talking about the PSOYCA path. Here's my answer to the question, and I feel this is where he's leading with this. We had to learn to crawl. we had to learn to walk. We had to learn to talk. We learned our families. We learned our cultures. We learned to read and write. We learned to ride a bike. We learned through school. We learned about love. We learned about sex. We learned how to do a job. We learned how to worship. We learned how to praise. We learned lots of things. But we learned nothing in this form experience of being PSOYCA. That we already knew. So, from this, we are having to dismantle our learning away from indoctrinated learning into remembering, which is not a learning process. So this raises the question, and I think this is a crew flat forehead moment because we've already been taught that consciousness learns through observation, not teaching. And like RJ has already told us, they don't teach others to teach others. They teach others to teach themselves, and teaching has more to do with learning. And learning happens through contemplation and observation, so yes, cognition is different from a state of consciousness. Now, I will admit at this point that I felt a lot of internal pieces coming together with this information based on many previous conversations we've had with crew out there. This information might not blow your socks off, but if you contemplate it, you should find relevance to it. But this isn't the best part. RJ asked us, if you remember, PSOYCA without form doesn't have experiences to learn. We must learn through observation. Another PSOYCA crew here asked, why does PSOYCA not have experiences without form? To which RJ responded, and this is going to be my new freaking motto, explain what you would experience if you were the wind. Think about that. This response was one that kind of stunned everyone. I'm not often left speechless, but this one definitely left everyone without further questions. And for me, this sealed up a lot of previous conversations we've had with crew out there. There was far more to the conversation, but I want to let you contemplate all of this and see what you come up with from your own PSOYCA remembrances. In some of the past videos, I've shared that PSOYCAs observe, feel, and know, and placed the heavy importance on the observation rather than jumping to conclusions. But when you look at why, as PSOYCA from our etheric state, when we are not attached to these forms, it does make total sense. There is so much with this experience in the form that is form-based, and until we step on our PSOYCA path, we really don't remember what it's like being PSOYCA without the form. There is so much from our experience here that molds and shapes our cognition and our perceptions that it's very difficult to step into PSOYCA mode and not use the form as the primary driving force for our cognitive growth and PSOYCA expansion. In one of the last parts of the conversation, I pointed out that although one doesn't need experience to have understanding, the experience in and of itself does bring greater realizations. RJ asked me, and this is indeed something to consider, and I most certainly will, does it really, or is that a perception that enforces itself through the experience? I want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen and consider this information. I'm Gemma Beall. On behalf of all PSOYCA crew, stay the course and don't give up on yourself.